Okay, so hello everyone. Today we're going to be chatting about communication tips, and to help me do that, we've got good old Emmet with us. Hi Emmet.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good, yeah. And then we've got two new team members who haven't been trained yet. If the roadshow was happening this year, these guys would have been coming along to the training and joining us on the roadshow. So we thought it might be good for them to sit in on this and learn some stuff. So, hi guys, you want to introduce yourself? Who wants
Hi,
to go?
I'm Emma. I'm a cleaner, and I've been pro-life pretty much my whole life because of my situation of being adopted.
Ah, fantastic.
Amazing.
I'm Rebecca. I'm a new Glasgow uni student, and I, within probably like the last year, become pro-life.
Amazing. So it's two really good stories there. Amazing. So yeah, we just wanted to go ahead and give some communication tips. So this would be sort of part of our training that we do for Project Truth. So we won't go into the whole training session, but we think it's really important. Like, you know, you could have all the facts and everything perfect, but if you don't get how you're communicating it to someone right, then they'll just totally switch off. Because a lot of the time I always say, you know, people don't necessarily remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel when you said it. So if we can start to get that right, then we'll be in a much better situation with these conversations. So the first one that I always talk about is active listening. So when we listen to people, we listen to understand where they're coming from and not to refute what they're saying. So we need to be properly listening to them as well, and be properly present in the moment with that person and make them feel that they're being taken seriously, because there's nothing worse if someone thinks that you are being condescending or something to them. So what do you think, how should you behave, like if you're in a conversation with somebody, how can you tell that that person is listening to you, or if they're not listening to you? What do you think?
Their body language and like how they're interacting while I was talking, how they were interacting, like facial expressions and nodding along, repeating it.
Yeah, and that is really important. It's going to do a bit on some of that stuff later on, but it is really good that if you are properly listening, repeating it back to the person is a really good thing, because then they know that you've been listening to them. And another thing I wanted to kind of add in there as well is, I always say, train your mind to always be kind, because if we, out with talking to people on the street or whatever, if we are talking about pro-choice people and sort of putting them down and saying, how crazy we think what they say is, then that kind of will come across when you're having these conversations. So you shouldn't talk about people like that. You should train your mind to actually, respect kind of where they are coming from, because not everybody has come from the same place. Maybe their views have come from different places, and you might think that you've heard the same argument a million times and you've got, oh, this one again, but you don't know how the person got there. So that's why it's really important to listen to that person to figure out how they got to that point, and it'll be a much easier conversation if we do that. And I always say that I think listening is definitely the most important tool that you have when you're having discussions with people. And I always say as well, like there's a time for action and there's a time for inaction, and knowing the difference can be totally crucial, because the time for action, okay, maybe that person in front of you needs to hear the hard facts, maybe they need to hear all the development things and development of the baby, but sometimes there's a time for inaction. So in that situation, maybe a woman has just told you that she's had an abortion. She doesn't need to hear the hard facts. So that, again, those listening skills come in to determine what kind of conversation we're going to have. So it's then about listening to her and ask, how are you? And if she wants to open up to you and tell you that, then listen. And if she doesn't, that's fine. But it's good to have like information for organisations like ARCH, Abortion Recovery Care and Helpline, that can help if she wants to talk to someone about that. And as well, sometimes we get like angry people coming up to the stall as well. So venting will happen, especially in such a heated topic. And when we're having like talking about abortion can get pretty heated sometimes. So venting will happen. So the best thing to do is just like keep calm and let them vent, let it get whatever it is off their chest. And sometimes what you see is someone will come across angry, they'll maybe kind of be shouting at you, and then themselves, as they get things out and as they vent, their wall will just come down on its own. But again, it's that listening as well to show the person like you're not responding to them, you're certainly not like going to start arguing back with them, but just let them get that off their chest and affirm their feelings. Perhaps that, you know, if somebody is angry, you can't tell them no, you're not angry, so you just need to kind of let them get that little rant out sometimes, and find somewhere that you can have a bit of common ground with them. Now, we never compromise a pro-life position, but sometimes you can find something in what they've said that you can say, listen, I agree with you on that. And sometimes as well, that'll just help for them, you know, you'll see their wall coming down a little bit. And have you ever had that? Have you ever had like any situations where you have been speaking about something pro-life and someone has been angry at you for it?
Yeah, one of my cousins, for instance, he'd keep arguing with me about it because of a situation, I don't know all the details, but that happened to his mother. So he'd just argue about it all the time whenever I brought anything up. And it was really hard to get through to him. But then when he had his own kids, it was like he listened more and understood my point of view.
Yeah, because sometimes it does take a bit of time, doesn't it? Like to see those walls might be up for various reasons, but it doesn't just happen overnight. Sometimes it's like the frog in the boiling water. You know, you toss the frog in the water, and if it's boiling, it will jump out. But if you heat it up gradually, you know, sometimes you get a different response. You know, what about like, so what are the reasons why someone might be angry?
If they're angry at themselves, so they're just taking it out on you because of something deep down.
Yeah. And I always say, like, you need to be really mindful of that as well. So when you do get an angry person, it could be that they've had a personal experience with abortion, or it could be that someone in their family or someone close to them has had a personal experience. So you don't know where people are coming from. You don't know the reason why they're angry. So you just need to listen to them, basically. And I always say that some people are hurting, some people are stubborn, some people are angry, some people are ashamed, some people are bitter, but they're never ever a lost cause.
Yeah. And with family, it's very hard with family as well because they're so close to us. It is hard to kind of have a bit of a distance, so we can just be kind of open-minded, a bit more, you know, often with our family, we can be very, very closed because just, oh, that's my position, that's your position, and that's it. But it is, and also like with family, even if there is a change, it's often like it's great you noticed a difference there, man. You know, to pinpoint, but often with family, they're just so close. You don't even see a change if it has occurred, you know. But I guarantee you, once you propose things in the right way, eventually they do hear it, you know. It just, as Louise says, it does take time, you know.
Yeah. So over to you, Emmet, if you want to.
Yeah, I suppose like that. Like it's nice. Like, to be open-minded is a huge one. Like I say, what we're just trying to do now is like just to like lay a foundation here for a good conversation on a topic that we probably will disagree on. So like what we say about being open-minded is believe because for a good reason, not because you're too stubborn to believe anything else. Or I've always been pro-life, but again, like we have a good reason for it. And what is it? Like for us, we would believe we have the evidence of science, faith, and reason on our side. You know, and again, that's another thing people often think. You know, you're just you're very religious or something. But whenever I talk about this, I very rarely mention God. I actually never mention God. I only mention God when the other person does, just to kind of get it back on track onto the topic at hand. You know. And the big one is like you should be pro-life because that's the most rational conclusion you can come to, or and be open-minded because there's no fear of us changing our views. Like you said, like we have all this evidence. We've already been down this road, and like Rebecca, you said, like, you know, you're a new pro-life person. That was me as well. After university, I was a pro-choicer all the way through high school and university. But then a conversation with a girl, Pam, on a night out, just totally changed that. You know, I was always saying, oh yeah, you should definitely have an abortion if you're raped. That was my stance. And next thing she said, well, why did I deserve a death penalty for what my father did? I said, what are you talking about? And she said, well, Emmett, like my dad raped my mom. I don't know who he is. He's a creep. I don't want to know who he is. But that's how I was created. So like, but my life isn't worth any less than yours just because how I was conceived, and I don't deserve a death penalty for what my father did. And I'm like, well, I'm not saying that. But she goes, well, you are. And I said, oh, hey, I am. So I just stopped talking and went over and drank over there. But that conversation just made me look at this with a new light, really, you know, a new set of eyes, really. So like that. So just being open-minded is huge. People can see straight away if you're being closed-minded about something.
Yeah.
And
like just
also
what you're saying there, Emmett, just like talking to people in a language they understand as well is really important, because there's no point in talking to people a person that only speaks English and you're trying to talk to them in French. It's never going to work. No. So it's just, I mean, that's, bear in mind that as well. So like how that person is going to best receive the information that you're giving them. Yeah,
and like I say, even before we even speak, our body language is a huge issue, as we've already mentioned there. Like one is like for us, I'm a guy, I'm tall, and like it's nothing worse for a girl or even any person to be looking up at someone when it's not where you see someone talking down to someone. So I would say with the guys, anyone who's even a tall girl, like try and get down to eye level. Maybe you might have to lean against a table or kind of, you know, like slouch a bit, but try and get as close to eye level with this person as possible, and they'll appreciate that. And try and look comfortable even if you're not comfortable. That's a big one. And like say, you know, give them their personal space, you know, and that's a big one. Like don't be crowding them, especially with all that's going on now with COVID-19 and that. Like it's never more important to give people that bit of space, but never be square shouldered. That's not a good thing to be, because if you're square shouldered, that's how boxers, when you're going to box someone, you're square shoulder. If you're going to play rugby, engage, you know. No, we don't want to do that. We're not going to get into a scrum or a fight here. So try and get side by side and say, well, oh, you know, okay, that's really interesting. You might want to point to something on your display if you have a placard up, or I'm probably sure we have a whole table there of stuff. And even want to show them a leaflet, stand side by side, showing them the leaflet, because guys, they might not realize it yet, but you are on the same side in so many issues. Like you could be both anti-poverty, you're probably both anti-racism, you're both anti-sexism, but like it's just about getting the conversation going, showing that you're normal, and making them feel a bit safe. If a person says something daft or just total bonkers, don't let your face show it, okay? Like, you know, because look, you're ready to go out there. Okay, today I have my pro-life t-shirt on. We're going to go out and we're going to talk about pro-life stuff all day. This person's after coming out of Greg's, after eating a few pies or whatever, and they're not really thinking about abortion. So give them a chance. They might say something daft. It might be their first conversation on abortion since high school. So be charitable with them. Don't gang up on a pro-choicer.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you need to be considerate to other people's views as well, because like I was saying before, you don't know how their views have been formed. So like, even if it does sound daft to you, it might be very real for them. So you just need to kind of have an allowance for that, you know, meet them where they are.
Yeah. And again, another thing is, like, don't gang up on someone. Yes, again, the space as well. Like, so you might, like, it's happened to me a few times. Where, like, say, I see someone in a bit of a sticky conversation, but I might go over and say, "Oh, you're obviously pro-choice. That's so interesting. I love to know, where does your choice begin and end?" Like, and I just jump straight in with it, like that clarification question. Now, and like when my clarification questions are so useful, because just to like, again, make sure that you are listening, because they might say something, but what do they actually really mean? So ask the clarification question. Try to bring the meaning out of what they're actually saying. Don't just assume what someone intends, or thinks or feels. So get to the bottom of it. What do you mean my body, my choice? Is it first trimester, second trimester, or right up to birth? And that's a really good question to ask. Remember, their shields are up. Their focus is on preventing my argument, right? They're not make them feel emotionally safe. Like, say, like, look, we're not on a TV show here. We're not on BBC News. We're just having a chat. And like, we can disagree if that's okay, but it's good to talk about these things. And that's why we're out here today, I suppose and another one was like, say the gracious, sensitive person speaking truth is far more likely to make a positive impact than the thoughtless, abrasive person speaking the same truth. So again, I like to use an analogy, be like a butterfly and not like a wasp, okay? Because like we're on a picnic here and there's a beautiful butterfly flies in and we're drawn to it, we're talking about it in a nice way, we see the color, we might want to try and catch it. But whereas if a wasp comes in, bzzz, and if that comes anywhere near me, I'm going to kill it, So we don't go around stinging people with some of these beautiful life truths, but I just like that to give it to them in a good way, positive way, with our own maybe personal touch on them. Make it your own, because guys, it's beautiful. The message of life is a beautiful message. And like my challenge to you, like anyone listening at home, and also I guess those Emma and Rebecca as your fresh fish to the Project Truth guys. So like say is to have the reason why you're pro-choice pro-life, why you're pro-life in go get mama, why you're pro-life in 30 seconds. Here's an example. This is from the Equal Rights Institute. They say, I am pro-life because we know the unborn are alive, because they're growing. We know the unborn are human because they have human parents. And I think human beings like me and you are valuable. In fact, I think all human beings have an equal right to live because they all have something special in common. They're human. That's why racism and sexism are wrong, because racism it focuses on a surface difference that doesn't morally matter and ignores the thing that we have in common, which is we're human. And because the unborn are clearly human, they should be given an equal right to life as well. Now, like that's their little, say template. But what I say to you is like, having your own words. Like what I say a lot of the time is, I say just basically like, I don't like to discriminate against any human being. I don't discriminate on the grounds of color. That's racism. I don't discriminate on sex. That's sexism. I don't discriminate against those who are disabled because that's just wrong. But now also I don't discriminate on what stage of development a human is, because we have human embryo, human fetus. And what do we call a baby that's just born?
Newborn.
Newborn, very good. What do we call a 2-year-old?
Toddler.
And a 13-year-old?
Teenager.
And a 21-year-old who can't get a job?
Me.
There you go. That's it. Welcome to unemployment. So human adults, human teenager, human toddler, human newborn, human fetus, and human embryo. It's just the same human, but just at a different stage, a different age. And that's just the way I look at it is I'm now pro-equality. I don't discriminate against any humans, and we all have an equal right to life. And Louise, maybe what way do you put it? What's these days? I know you change and flip-flop a few times, but
yeah, I do change because there's so many different reasons why I'm pro-life, really. So it does chop and change of what I say to people. But like, basically, my thing would be I've spoken to so many women and men as well who have been hurt by abortion, and I've seen that hurt, what it can cause, and I just think that women deserve better than abortion, and so do babies.
Yeah.
So like I was going to say a bit about, you mentioned analogies there, Emmet. You like to use analogies when you're talking to people because it helps people to resonate with things better. So I would say as well, like if there is any sort of like personalizing that you can do within a conversation, it usually does help. Personal testimony can be extremely valuable, and when it's appropriate to do that, like don't be afraid to use it. You might not have a personal story of your own, but you might know of someone else's personal story. So for example, when I'm talking to someone about, and they bring up rape, I can say that my friend Rebecca Kiesling, she was conceived in rape, so I can tell her story, and just say, like, her life isn't any less valuable because of the way she was brought into the world, just like what Emmett was saying about, his friend Pam. So like, other team members on the roadshow that have done it before might have some stories that they have picked up, over the years of doing that and talking to people on the streets. But if you don't have any sort of personal story that you can use or you're comfortable using, then you can always, talk to the other team members about stories. Or, I mean, you can find these things online. There's a lot of good speakers that use personal stories all the time. But all the while, you need to make really apparent that the fact that we really do care, make that very clear to them as well. And always kind of ensure the love and the care for the mother and the rest of the family, as well as the unborn child. So like it can be, it can be really, really useful in getting people to sort of resonate with what you're trying to say, rather than just kind of giving them facts all the time. Telling them a story, giving them an analogy is much, much easier. But also in sharing those stories, if we want people to kind of listen to the stuff that we're going to say in terms of that, we must also be willing to receive stories from people as well. So you might find that they will open up to you and tell you their story. So in that case, that's the time for listening for you. And it really is a great privilege to hear some stories that people do tell us. There's some amazing stories that we've heard, from women who have had abortions up to people who have, were trying to be forced into having an abortion, and they like had one person that like run away from the house and got themselves, like, they were totally like homeless, got themselves somewhere to stay just so that they could have the baby, because they were trying to be forced to have the abortion, so some amazing stories. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of like what we wanted to say in terms of the communication tips. So I hope that's been useful for you guys. I hope it's been useful for those watching as well. So have you got anything else you want to say to wrap up, Emmet?
No, just don't be afraid to speak life. And whenever it comes up, it could be in a pub at 2 o'clock in the morning, or it could be in a beer garden, or wherever you are. Don't
Probably
ever be
better
afraid.
not to have these conversations with the influence of alcohol.
Yeah. But you never know. But then, like I say, always be willing and have your little reason why it is so normal and so natural to be pro-life,
Okay. Well, thanks guys for having this conversation with us today, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yes. Bye.